Week 15 of the fantasy football season. Here's the top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking this week. Number one, the Seattle Seahawks. So this week, a great matchup with Indianapolis coming in. Daniel Jones is out for the season with the torn Achilles, and now it's going to be either Brett Rypien, Leonard, or even the newly signed Phillip Rivers at 44 years old starting for this Indianapolis Colts team. So Seattle, the last month of the season, easily has been the best defense in the league, getting to the quarterback, creating a lot of turnovers, and this week home at the 12th man versus the Indianapolis Colts. It wouldn't be surprising if this is a similar type of game like it was going back to week 13 when Minnesota came in and this defense went off with a big game. Number two, the Houston Texans. So the Texans, one of the best defenses in the league. This week, a good matchup. Arizona Cardinals coming in. I know Jacoby Brissett's throwing the football well, and they're putting points on the board, but it's been a lot of garbage time. And Brissett, he's taking his sacks, and he's good for a turnover or two per game. So like I said, Houston, they're on fire right now, winning a lot of games of late. And this defense just went into Arrowhead last week on Sunday night and shut down Patrick Mahomes and that offense to 10 points. So this week versus Arizona, I expect more of the same. Number three, San Francisco 49ers. San Francisco, I know Bosa, Warner out for the season, but this defense has been playing good, and this week a great matchup versus Tennessee Titans. I know the Titans last week put up 31 points on the board, but I think that was a little bit fluky, and it was versus a good Cleveland Brown defense, but this 49er team coming off bye and Tennessee traveling this week once again to the West Coast. I think it could be a bad ball game for Tennessee. They're one of the worst teams in the league at 2-11 on the season, and I think just last week was fluky for Tennessee. So I think Robert Saleh has this defense playing great as their defensive coordinator. And this week versus the Titans, they'll get off to a good lead, San Francisco, and making them one-dimensional and a long day for Cam Ward. Number four, the Philadelphia Eagles. So the Eagles D, I thought, played a good ball game at the Los Angeles Chargers. They got to Justin Herbert early and often. The wide receivers in Ladd McConkey, Quentin Johnston, Keenan Allen didn't do much in that game. And this week's a slam dunk matchup versus the Vegas Raiders, where I know they got Ashton Ginty, Brock Bowers, two great players at their positions, no doubt about it. But the O-line is bad for this Raider team. We'll see if it's Geno Smith back in the line because of his hand injury, or Kenny Pickett after he left last week's game, Geno with the hand, like I said. But either way, I think Philadelphia, after coming off a tough overtime loss in last week's game, I think they go out there versus Vegas Raider team and have a good game. Number five, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So the New York Jets, they might be coming into this one with the third string quarterback Cook as the starter in this one. Tyrod Taylor left the game early last week versus the Dolphins with a groin injury. Justin Fields, he was inactive with his ailments as well. And this week, Jacksonville, they're playing great football. They're putting up a lot of points on the board. And the New York Jets, they've had trouble scoring all season long. So Jacksonville first place in the division now, 9-4 on the season. And I think this week, New York coming in, regardless who the quarterback is, Jacksonville still could go out there and be a top 5 performer. Number six, the Denver Broncos. So Denver, we know, is one of the best defenses in the league. And last week, it was light work in that matchup at the Vegas Raiders, where the Denver Broncos were in control early and often. They had a punt return, a few sacks in that game, banged up Geno Smith, like I said. And this week, this could be a very cold game with just a lot of running the football. And the Green Bay Packers, I know they're one of the best running teams in the league with Josh Jacobs at running back, but throwing the football, it's been a mixed bag of results this season with Jordan Love. So I think Denver, even with Green Bay coming in, and like I said, Denver back home, where the weather definitely could be a big factor in this one, still a top 6 option. Number seven, the Chicago Bears. So this Bear DST, a good matchup this week. Cleveland coming in. And this Bear defense, I've said it a lot this season. They get to the quarterback. They create timely situations. I know last week was a bad game for them, though, giving up 28 points. But that was a lot of Christian Watson, one-on-one coverage, and just burning his defender and taking it to the end zone. So this week, Shedeur Sanders and the Browns coming in. I know Shedeur played well last week. They still lost the game. And I think Chicago in this one, ground and pound, it's going to be for them, where they're going to run the football a whole lot, get off to an early lead, and make this Cleveland offense one-dimensional. And that's where Chicago really could go out there and tee off back home at Soldier Field this week. Number eight, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs defense last week, I thought, did a decent job. I know the Texans offense isn't anything great. It's a middle-of-the-pack type of offense. And this week, the Chargers are coming in. And we saw last week, Justin Herbert definitely favoring that left hand, and rightfully so. He just came off surgery last week with that hand, was Herbert. So obviously he was thinking about that a lot. Some of his throws he missed. And also he took a lot of sacks in that ball game. So the Chiefs 6-7 on the year, and most likely not making the playoffs the way it's looking unless they run the table and get help. I still think in Arrowhead this week with the Chargers coming in, This defense is going to get pressure and make some plays. Number 9, the Green Bay Packers. So this Bronco offense, I think, is a little overrated. I know Bo Nix stats-wise have been pretty decent, but the last few weeks they're not throwing the football effectively. It's been a lot of running, relying on the defense for this Denver Bronco team. So I think the Green Bay Packers, we know they got a good defense. We know Micah Parsons, one of the better defenders in the league, obviously, and he's helping this team this season, no doubt about it. Top contender for the Super Bowl in the NFC. They're up there with some of those teams as this Green Bay Packer defense. I think this week they're going to go out there, Green Bay at Denver. This could be a grinded out type of game and possibly bad weather and be a decent option. Number 10, the Pittsburgh Steelers. So the Steelers, they cut loose Darius Slay last week, and I think they're trying to clean that locker room up a little bit with that move. And also Slay wasn't going out there and competing and putting up numbers and playing well like he did last season for the Philadelphia Eagles. So this week, Miami coming in. Devon Achane, we'll see if he plays in this one or not. And we know Miami's a bad team in the cold weather, even though last week they went in at the New York Jets and won that game. But Pittsburgh, like I said, I like their defense. Getting Slay out of there. Too many chefs in the kitchen type of deal was over there. Now, like I said, Tua, he hasn't played well this season, in my opinion. And if Achane is out, I would even bump this deal with DST up more. Number 11, the Carolina Panthers. I like this Panthers defense this week in this matchup at the New Orleans Saints. They don't have to deal with outside elements. I know Tyler Shuck's been playing better football for this New Orleans Saints team, and Devin Neal's been decent out of the backfield running the football since Kamara went down. But the Panthers are coming off by. The defense gets pressure on the quarterback, where Shuck's taking his sacks this season, and he's turned over the football a little bit as well. And that's obviously something you expect for a rookie. So I think this week Carolina, they could be a decent option for fantasy owners coming off the bye, and with a favorable matchup at the division rival, the New Orleans Saints, and the final DSTs, the Dallas Cowboys. I know last week they couldn't stop anything, 44 points given up, but that was the Detroit Lions, and the Minnesota Vikings are coming into town. And Minnesota, I know last week they had a big ball game, but that was the Washington Commanders. And this Cowboy defense, we know they got some players on it at least. Quinnen Williams, he was a great move for them at the NFL trade deadline. Overshown, he returned a couple weeks ago, still getting his legs under him. And this Minnesota offense is nowhere near, obviously, what that Detroit Lion offense is, or even the Philadelphia Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. Two teams they beat going back a couple weeks ago, 2 games in a row is Dallas. So this week is a 1-week streaming option where we know J.J. McCarthy is taking big sacks this season. We know he's turning the football over, and also Justin Jefferson hasn't really put up numbers. I think this Cowboy defense is a 1-week streaming option. Could be decent, be a top 12 option versus the Vikings this week. So that's a top 12 defense DST units I'm ranking for week 15 of the fantasy football season.